welcome back to another episode of Where the Game Lives On, the official podcast of the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. You can find us anywhere you listen to your podcasts, Apple Podcast or Spotify. We welcome you back in. I'm your host, Noah Tucker. To my left over here is Byron Shive. How are we doing, sir?
Doing all right. How are you?
Doing well. We've also got a special guest today. We've got another coworker of ours, Director of Operations at the Hall of Fame, Taylor Frederich. Introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much for having me. Taylor Frederich, Director of Operations here at the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame and Price Cutter Charity Championship.
You stole my chair, by the way. I used to be sitting over there. Now I'm over here. So
we try to keep it conversational on here. This is the best setup. I've thought about this, guys. Anyway, early morning here. Got back from the holiday. How was your guys' 4th of July? How'd it go?
Good. I got to play some golf at the Victoria National in Indiana on Monday, which is the number one ranked course in Indiana my entire life. And so I've been waiting about 25 years to play it and got a chance to play on Monday.
Bougie here. We had a subtle flex there. What about you, Taylor?
I did not play Victoria National. No, I got to spend a little time with the family, just hanging out, relaxing with them. Also went over to friends, did a little barbecuing. And just kind of hanging out before a couple busy weeks here at the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah, if my wife's listening, I also got to hang out with the family and do the...
There you go. Making sure you don't get in trouble later. Yeah, no, it's great family time. Love being around them. I've realized I'm getting older when the younger kids are like, do you want to shoot off fireworks? And I'm like, maybe not.
I'm struggling to stay awake until it's dark enough to shoot off fireworks. So that's the age I'm at. So
get to enjoy, have a 2.5-year-old daughter, got to do some smoke bombs, some snakes like that. Yes. So that was the first year she got to enjoy those.
A few pooping dogs.
Of course.
Age appropriate. What is I'm curious, what is your guys' do you have traditions or something when it comes to 4th of July? Is there something that stands out? I mean, it's like the prime summer holiday, right?
It really is. Generally, I don't know if it's a tradition, but I'm generally around a body of water, whether that be the lake or the pool, something like that, or whether it's playing with an inflatable slide with kids in the backyard. So it's something related to water generally.
Yeah. In Southwest Missouri, I feel like you almost have to be.
Being from Branson, growing up around the lakes, that's something that we always were accustomed to, is being on a body of water during a holiday.
For sure. What about you?
Swimming pool, barbecue, and then community fireworks. That's pretty much the annual tradition. So
hamburger, hot dog, brat. What
steak.
Bougie. Quite the family gathering there.
Yeah, speaking of bougie, I'll do a cheeseburger every time.
I'll cut the hot dog in half and put the hot dog on the burger. That's my go-to.
My goodness.
Yes.
I'm a brat guy.
I love brats, but I'll cut the hot dog.
My favorite tradition, though, speaking on that, at our family gathering, we have an annual volleyball game, right? And this volleyball court is set up between two trees. So there's kind of some house rules where if somebody shanks it off the tree and it comes back in play, you got to play it. And it's always just competitive, and none of us are volleyball players, so we really enjoy it and stuff. But yeah, it was a fun weekend. We all enjoy it. It's a good time. And
that sounds like a good staff retreat's what that sounds like.
Yeah. No, but it was hot. It obviously wasn't as hot as it was with the heat wave we had this past weekend, or past week rather. But we're getting used to the heat. We're getting used to the weather because we have got the Price Cutter Charity Championship coming up here soon, the big Corn Ferry Tour event that we host every year. And as I mentioned, Taylor's joining us. He is the Director of Ops here and does a lot of in and outs with the tournament. And that stuff is very, very quickly approaching. So just kind of talk to us a little bit about what's going into that and what's that look like.
Sure. So although professional play is July 20 through 23, really the bulk of the work has to be done before that in terms of the setup of the course, whether that be construction related regarding the tents, powering the air conditioning for those tents, or the bathrooms, ice machines. There's just trash cans. So again, the bulk of the work has to happen before. As a matter of fact, the bulk of that work will begin just in a couple days here. So Friday, July the 7th is whenever the bulk of the work will start. We'll have tents being constructed and erected down at the course, and then we'll have power shortly following. So it is about a 10-day, 12-day process to kind of get the course built in terms of the skyboxes, so we can put on a good show. Really, that's one of those things that, again, we have to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and that starts here in just a couple days.
Yeah, definitely. a near 2-week process to set up. I don't think people understand maybe the magnitude of just how many structures and whatnot are out there that aren't generally on a golf course.
I was meeting with a couple guys yesterday regarding the build, and it's a couple guys who don't quite have an idea of the tournament and the scope of it. And whenever I told them that they begin construction on Friday, they were blown away that they were going to be here that long. I told them that, they were going to be here until not only through the tournament on July 23rd, but then they have to break it down after that. So 10 days, 12 days to go up, it comes down in about 4 days. So they do work quickly once the tournament is over.
Byron's made mention of that before. Once the tournament's over, everybody's kind of just
We're ready to be done.
Get that
yeah,
thing torn down.
that's one of those things too that we this tent company, they're packing their equipment up and very likely going to another tournament. So again, they once our tournament is over, they just go on and do it at a different site.
And you may talk a little bit about this too, Taylor, but how important, I remember seeing it in the last couple of years the first time, because I was always a volunteer and I'm, coming in and I'm seeing everything put together already, but just how precise everything has to be, because if one skybox is off by a foot, it throws everything else off.
It can throw everything off. I recall one year, just I think 3 or 4 years ago, there was actually a skybox that was put too close to an 18th green. The professional golfers were literally hitting into the skybox to, receive on purpose to receive relief from the skybox. And that's the thing, is once those things are up, they're not coming back down. So that is the one thing that is a little bit fortunate with us having the tournament be at the same golf course for all 34 years, is that there's a little bit of knowing where everything goes, right? The tents along 18, we kind of know exactly where the front of that tent line should start, and so on and so forth, where they should start, where they should end. So
interesting. I kind of have a saying around here sometimes with a lot of things we do, is like, it's not rocket science, but like there's a lot of like exact measurements and whatnot.
Simple as moving the couch across the room.
Not exactly. So again, we do try to get it right the first time, and we've been fortunate to get it right most of the time. But again, we work with the tent company and then the rules officials as well. That's a time that I have to talk with the tour staff as they are building it, because again, it is a 10-day, 12-day process, and the tour is here for the duration of the build. So they do have a little bit of an opportunity to say, hey, you need to move the skybox back, or that bathroom is in pending play. Please turn the bathroom around so the door's not facing the fairway. Some things like that they can give a little direction on while they're here as well.
Interesting. I'm kind of curious, because I haven't seen it before being new on staff here. Like on a given day of setup, how many people might be, moving around the golf course doing different things?
So for the construction crew, they will have, about 10 guys here for that first 10 to 12 days. We'll always have an on-site guy here during the tournament. So the bulk of the crew will leave once everything's constructed. We will have the on-site guy who's there to do little things, if we need picket fencing moved, or a table moved, chairs, things like that. But yeah, there'll be 10 guys here for the beginning, 1 guy here for the duration of the tournament, and then the same crew will come back after the tournament. So on that Sunday, Championship Sunday, when they begin breakdown on Monday, they'll have a crew of about 10 here as well.
Wow.
And that's just the tents too. So that's just tents. That's not including the company who provides all the power. So again, there are a lot of moving bodies out here, early mornings and late nights for that first 2 weeks, really.
I think that really just goes to show how much the general public doesn't see with what all goes into it, And even when we go into the tournament itself, there's a lot of help that's needed, right? Between, everything that has to be done, marshaling, parking, all the things. I mean, how do we make that work?
Volunteer Army, about 1,000 strong, has been over the course of, 33, the 34th year. We couldn't put on we have a great staff here at the Hall of Fame, but there's no way we could put on the tournament of this scope without the volunteers, and we appreciate every one of them. Obviously, our charities provide a lot of the bulk of the volunteers, but we have a lot of individuals from the community. I mentioned myself. I used to be a walking score. We were in need of anyone that's wanting to come out and volunteer. you have the chance to be up close with the next Wyndham Clark, the next Scotty Scheffler, the next Justin Thomas. These guys that are playing out here are really good. They're the future stars of the PGA Tour, and this is your chance to get up and close with them. And also volunteer and help out the charities as well. So anyone that's interested in volunteering, it's never too late. As Taylor mentioned, the tournament itself is July 20th through the 23rd. So just contact us. We'll be happy to get you signed up for something.
Yeah, you mentioned it's still a ways away. I wonder if people kind of get antsy whenever we're talking about it, because for us being like tournament month now, we think, oh my goodness, it's so close. And some people are like, hey, it's still 20 days away. No, you don't understand.
Last week was the first time, last week ago Monday, I realized that the end of that week was the last day of June. And that's when I was like, uh-oh. Now it's go time.
Here. Yeah, it's here. Yeah. Well, we've probably talked about the prize cutter enough. We like to give it its due diligence every day on the pod that we can. But in other sports news, Missouri sports news, last week, MISA, that is the High School Sports Activity Association here in the state, announced a new NIL ruling for high school athletes. Now, let's be clear. This isn't just kind of opening the floodgates, I don't think, for the NIL, but it's going to allow high school athletes to partake in that, if you would, once they sign an NLI, National Letter of Intent. So once they're committed and signed
it's
to a
school.
school,
It's a Missouri high school athlete that commits to a Missouri college or university. So it's not someone from Arkansas committing to play football at Mizzou that they can start earning NIL in Missouri. It's limited to Missouri athletes or student athletes.
So what do you think about it, though? I mean, is it?
I think that it's cutting edge. Obviously, NIL is huge, and it's not going away. I think we've talked about that previously, that it is an opportunity for student athletes to make money, and this is Missouri kind of being ahead of the curve, I think, and just kind of getting out there and allowing every time that Mizzou signs a recruit, the coaches aren't allowed to talk about it, but they post on Twitter their little, like Coach Gates has his, little thing that he puts out on Twitter.
It's
and
the bat signal.
Is that what it is?
Right. Well, that's what I equate it to, right? It's
Yes.
like, hey, there's something
good just happened.
Something, you see that in the sky. Something
And
good's
he
about
and
to
Coach
happen.
Drinkwitz both, right after this came out, because they were 100% behind it. It's going to benefit them greatly because it's going to encourage kids here in Missouri to stay home and go to play for a Missouri school. And this is not just Mizzou. This is Northwest Missouri State. It's Southeast Missouri State, Missouri, all the schools. And so it's going to be a game changer. And I think it's, like I said, cutting edge.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it's pretty progressive. I haven't seen a lot of other stuff from state high school activities, doing this. I'm just curious to see how it starts out. Obviously, it's going to have to kind of get its footing. I think initially, though, at least how I feel, it may only really affect like that top 1%. That Michael Porter Jr., like we mentioned on last podcast, a Missouri guy who is obviously a big-time talent that, people will see, oh, he's committing to a Missouri school. Let's take advantage of this right away. But I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Really, I mean, it's one of those things that's not going away, right? Like you guys kind of just mentioned. You got to get ahead of it. I do think it's something that will be forever evolving. This is so brand new. You see it at the NCAA level. You're going to see it at the high school level. It's one of those things. Once you do open the doors to it, again, people will try to find the loopholes, and people will try to find ways to get around it or to benefit from it more, whatever it is. But again, I do think it's one of those things. It's fantastic opportunity, especially to keep things in-house, in-state. But again, it's going to always change. So
the whole thing's been described as the Wild Wild West, and until Congress on the federal level has a unifying rule in place, every state's going to be different. And this is just an example of Missouri saying, okay, well, we're going to do this.
And, you and I discussed the amateurism and whatnot, and I think with how they've worded it, how they're going about it, I don't think it's hindering any aspect of that of high school sports, because when you think about it, a lot of these kids are committing while they're still playing their senior seasons and stuff. But for the most part, your fall guys will sign there in December or in February after they're already done playing in high school anyways. They're already getting ready to go. Some of them are early enrollees or whatever it may be. So I think it makes sense in that regard, where they're not going to be still playing and like having all this cash that they're throwing around,
So you're a former Missouri student athlete who signed to play baseball at a Missouri college. So
It's true.
You're saying you wouldn't have been rolling in it back in the day, or what?
Noah's not in the top
Yeah,
1%, like we talked
I
about.
was not the top 1%. But that's what I mean. Like, even for somebody like me who, like, I come from a Southwest Missouri family who has footing, in Southwest Missouri business, I don't think there would have been anybody reaching out to me trying to do a deal or anything like that in that regard. I just think it's going to be for those upper echelon basketball, football, majority, athletes, maybe a baseball.
And honestly, that's probably who it was geared toward, because we want those guys and gals to stay home and go to Missouri schools.
So you think that's where this is coming from for the most part?
Well, this is kind of a two-parter because the state legislature passed this already. This is Misha saying it's okay for our student athletes to make money if they're under this law. So anyway, very interesting. I think we'll see if other states follow suit.
Well, and Taylor's right. It's not going away. I mean, it right now, the Wild West is a correct term. Right now, it is a beast that you really don't fully understand.
And that's why, I mean, and again, not to keep referencing this again, but you see it at the NCAA level. There are schools who have NIL people on their athletic staff now. I mean, that is their sole responsibility is understanding the inner workings of that, what's allowed, and again, it's a big deal that is going to become bigger and bigger.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it was a discussion for so long, about paying college athletes, or now we're even talking about high school relatively, and we've just come so far in such a short amount of time. So moving on, a new segment here that we're wanting to try and maybe start installing. Is a question of the day, a sports-related question that we'd like to debate. We frequently have these kind of discussions around the office, so we thought, hey, why not try to throw this in on the podcast? So one that I think is probably we would all disagree on, we're about to find out, is what is the most unbreakable individual record in sports?
Wow.
And I'll start with this. I think you really have to think in the mindset of, how are these sports evolving right now?
Well, and that's ultimately how I got to my answer. I mean, I think something that jumps out, Wilt Chamberlain, 100 points.
Okay.
But someone I could see jacking up enough shots in the NBA, today's NBA, to score 100 points.
You've seen guys score 40 in a quarter, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you've seen the Currys and the Clays go off.
It's not likely, but is it impossible? No. So that's not my answer.
I thought that would be your answer.
No.
Okay.
That's I'm not sitting here saying that's going to be broken in the immediate future. But
it just wouldn't shock me if it did happen.
Yeah, that's something. I mean, you talk about somebody who changed the game with Curry in the 3-point. I mean, that's something that again, I think that you can have somebody. I mean, Kobe scored 81.
Yeah.
Again, that's a far. That's not a far cry from triple digit.
And I think the game of basketball too is moving towards that. More shots getting up, more 3-point shots. Yeah, like faster pace of game. There's just a better chance of potentially one day a talent doing that.
It's not going to shock me. I think that. Like Cal Ripken's consecutive game streak is probably never getting broken because people are going to take days off. But the hitting streak, 56-game hitting streak, I think baseball is where it's at. But ultimately, I think my answer is, and I don't even know how many he has, however many no-hitters Nolan Ryan has, is probably the answer because no one is ever going to pitch 9 innings that many. I mean, they get yanked. How many times in the last few years have we heard of combined no-hitters because a guy's throwing a no-no in 6 innings, but they want to take him out because of pitch count or whatever. And so then the reliever for the next couple innings, they have a combined no-hitter. So however many no-hitters, is it 12? It's something ridiculous.
I couldn't name it off the top of my head. I'm curious, what is your answer, though? Are you going the baseball route or something different?
No, and I don't know if my answer is geared this way because of what we are getting ready to go through with a Korn Ferry Tour PGA golf tournament here coming up in just a couple weeks. I'm curious if either of you guys know the answer to this. Consecutive cut streak on the PGA Tour. Any idea what it is?
Assume it's Eldrick Tiger Woods.
Tiger or Nicholas, maybe.
The most unbreakable individual record, in my opinion, is 142 straight cuts made on the PGA Tour.
Is it Tiger?
Tiger Woods. The active leader on the PGA Tour right now is 28. consecutive cuts made.
It's pretty cool.
Quick math here. I think there's, and again, this is some rough numbers. I think there's about 10 tournaments left this year. There's 44 approximately tournaments on the PGA Tour each year. He would have to make every single cut from this point forward through halfway through the PGA Tour season in 2026 and not miss a cut.
That's impressive. That's a wow.
I think it's more likely that we see someone score 100 points than that.
Yeah,
I do too.
no, I
I
agree.
seriously,
I
I
agree.
mean, I seriously do too. That is incredible. Whenever
Yeah.
you know, and again, I don't know what tournament it was. It might have been the last major that was just played. I think Justin Thomas shot like an 81 on Friday and missed the cut. Right.
Wow.
Justin, I mean,
one bad round.
one bad round. Right. And
Yeah.
JT is on top. You know, he is one of the premier golfers. You know, on the tour in the world right now.
Yeah.
That is, you know, Scotty Scheffler is on a tear right now. John Rahm, they're not. I mean, it would take an incredible.
Who is the 28?
Xander.
Is it Xander?
Yeah,
Okay.
Xander Schauffele is 28 right now. So
Former Korn
again,
Ferry guy, right?
yeah,
Yes,
he's a
absolutely.
Korn Ferry Tour guy. So
Wow.
again, I think that's something that that's remarkable.
Yeah.
Whenever you
That's
sit there and think about
pretty
that
good
streak,
answer.
and again, whether it's kind of like what you were alluding to with pitch, pitch count, things like that. There's the injury factor. There's slumps happen in golf. That's an incredible streak that
Yeah.
that he pulled
When
off.
when
So-
you talk about this debate too, I like the factor, the aspect of the consistency, the longevity. Like you talk about the 100-point game. There's so many talented basketball guys, and that's not a small feat. But you have to like be out of this world for one game. And a big one for me, and you mentioned it, is Joe DiMaggio with the hit streak. Like I remember when Whit Merrifield was like at 30 something, here back in like 2017. And it's like after you get over 20 in modern day, it's like the media is looking at you every day. You got the cameras on you. Every AB's on Sports Center. I just don't think with some of those things, or with even with what you're talking about with the active cut streak, maybe it's not something that they look at as closely. But once it starts getting in that media cycle and whatnot, it makes it so much more difficult for these guys mentally to be able to hit some of these. Like it's just almost impossible, in my opinion.
Well, and there may not be a better athlete in the history of sports mental game than Tiger Woods, though. I mean, I think that he won a lot of tournaments when he stepped on the tee box just because he was mentally tuned in already. And guys, I'm not saying they were scared of him, but I mean, he was a machine.
And I don't know the answer to this, but I would be curious as to where Tiger fits, second, third, because Tiger's 140, 142. Second place might be his 126.
Might not even be triple digit. Yeah.
It could be him. Or
Yeah.
again, I'm curious to kind of know what that is, because I don't know if that number has been sniffed for a long, long time. So
Interesting. Here's a Tiger question. Will he ever fully make a return?
are you asking if he's going to win a major again?
I mean, is that what you consider him making? Did we see throughout an entire career how great Tiger could be after kind of
The guy won a U.S. Open on a broken leg. I mean, I think for the game of golf it would be great, but I think that we probably have seen the best of Tiger, and that I don't know that he's going to get back to that level of consistency now. Can he win again? Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it only takes 4 good days, and he's, like I said, the best mental game in the history of sports. So
It's no doubt.
I just think the game of golf as a whole, that there's so much more competition now than there used to be. I mean, there's so many good golfers out there.
I
That-
want it to happen.
Yeah.
I don't. I maybe he catches lightning in a bottle,
Mm-hmm.
and pulls off, something, the 2019 Masters,
Yeah.
or Phil. Phil wins
Last year at the PGA.
Phil
Yeah.
wins last year at the PGA, and you know what? That is, lightning in a bottle. If
Mm-hmm.
Phil can do it, at the 50+ age, why can't Tiger pull off the same feat? Not going to shock anybody, I don't think.
No,
if he
that's-
does, if he does. So.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. You think about like all the controversy and the leg and the fused back and everything, and yet if he still got to a point where he was playing some of his best golf he ever played, I don't think any of us would be surprised. I mean, it's just like the statistics you pulled right there. It's like, well, it's Tiger.
And and that's and kind of like Byron said with the mental warfare that Tiger was able to capitalize. These guys, if he steps on a tee box on Sunday afternoon and he's in that fight,
red and black.
that gives me that gives me goosebumps sitting here just thinking about having the opportunity to watch that. What do you think, the fierce competitors of the world, of the John Rahms and the Scotties and the Rory, those guys, you don't think that they would be sitting there going, oh, this boy,
is him.
I think Brooks Koepka actually, he's won 5 majors himself. And I think he was the one that was in contention with Tiger when Tiger won the Masters in like 19. And he said it was the greatest because he wanted to go toe-to-toe with the best and got the chance to do so.
Oh, yeah, everybody wants it. The golf fans want it. Golf itself wants it. I mean, it's...
I mentioned that golf is so much better now, and the big reason why is because a lot of those guys grew up as little kids rooting for Tiger and picked up a golf club because of Tiger Woods, and now here they are. So it's... Yeah. I don't know.
He's definitely
Charlie Woods may win a major though.
There's another
I
story
think he already
people
won
wanna
an
follow.
amateur or something not too long ago.
I saw an interview that TaylorMade put out the other day. It was Morikawa.
Taylor Frederich made, or
Morikawa was talking with Tiger, and he was like asking him if Charlie's beat him yet. And he's like, no, but he outdrove me the other day. I'm like, give us this blessing.
And I've seen like little clips on Twitter of their swings side by side and the way they twirl their clubs and
picking up the golf tees, things like that.
It gives you those goosebumps.
I would imagine that we haven't seen the last of the young Woods out there.
Yeah. Who's the other one? John Daly. John Daly's kid. I
hear
he's pretty good too.
Missouri guy right there,
right.
John Daly.
Yeah. Maybe a Hall of Famer? Yes.
He technically, yes. He was on those Elias Catholic golf teams that we inducted. He was on the state championship team.
But you could be inducted in a program and then be inducted individually.
Sure. Yep.
Of course, he's still playing, and with golf, it's tough because you can play for forever. Is he still? Is Daly on the senior tour now? Is that how that works?
I don't know if he's affiliated with any tour. I think that people are fired up whenever he comes to a tournament, whether that be as a spectator or in the field. But you can always catch him in a parking lot down in Augusta.
Yes.
I know that.
When we were there in 13, we drove down, and there he was sitting out in front of Hooters with a RV signing autographs out there.
That's great. I just like hearing all the stories about like you never can be surprised about John Daly, about what you hear about him playing golf barefoot and smoking 3 packs of cigarettes and drinking 30 Diet Cokes and one round of golf.
I was actually my first summer after my freshman year of college, I worked for a mowing company in Indianapolis, and we had to mow the yards at Crooked Stick Golf Course, which is the private course in Carmel, just north of Indy, site of the PGA Championship. And that's the year that John Daly found out at like 10 o'clock the night before the tournament that he was the alternate and got into the tournament. Drove through the night, got out of his car, went out, and I don't remember what he shot, but he wound up winning the tournament, won his first major that day, or that weekend. But we had to mow the yards across from the golf course to make sure that they looked nice. But I remember because it was at Crooked Stick where John Daly won. So,
that's sweet.
Yeah.
We have a friend here at the Hall of Fame who's actually went down and played in John Daly's golf tournament down in Arkansas, Darndale, Arkansas, or somewhere about those parts, and. From my understanding, it is a rip-roaring good time down there between comedy shows, concerts on flatbed 52-foot trailers, just a good old Arkansas golf time.
Before Paynes Valley, of course, down at Big Cedar, the golf course down there, before it was Paynes Valley, it was John Daly's Murder Rock. And when it opened, he came in and he actually, if I remember, played it barefooted because it's John Daly. Why wouldn't you? And but he's just a character.
Interesting. Well, if you can't tell, we all love golf. We love all sports. If you love us, we appreciate you listening to Where the Game Lives On. If you think we do a decent job, feel free to leave us a review on Apple Podcast or on Spotify. We'll have weekly episodes coming out every Wednesday as usual. You can stay up to date on everything that's happening with the Hall of Fame, with the podcast on our socials. You'll find those linked below in the podcast description.
All right. Well, we look forward to hopefully seeing you guys at the Price Cutter Charity Championship here in a few weeks.
July 20th through the 23rd. We appreciate you listening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Taylor.
Where the Game Lives On.
Yep. Thanks for having me, guys.